What's going on, YouTube? This is your boy Jordan JC back again on the Chicago Bears Breeze. And today we got a good one because today we're talking about just exactly what the head coaching search is going to look like for the Chicago Bears as they embark on this, again, very, very important mission on who they're going to bring in to try and right this sinking ship that is the Chicago Bears. A lot of players have sounded off. In particular, there's going to be one player that I want to key in on, specifically tight end Cole Kmet, that had some very interesting things to say as to what he would like to see in the next head coach, what traits he would like to see, what kind of culture shift he wants to see in the organization. And we're here to talk about it right now. In the latest Chicago Tribune article by a senior reporter, Dan Wiederer, he outlined some things that the tight end had to say that were very interesting as far as the big picture of the Chicago Bears and what they would like to see in the organization. Obviously, we know that the interim head coach, Thomas Brown, has been a failure. Not necessarily as far as when it comes to the effort or I'm sure the desire that the team has been playing for him. He has said all of the right things. You know, he hyped us all up, myself included, when it comes to, you know, what we need to see from the team and in the locker room when it comes to discipline, holding each other accountable. And yet we've still lost. And so at the end of the day, it's about winning the game. At the end of the day, it's about the product that you put out there on the field. It's about the returns that you get from the product that you put out there on the field. And it just hasn't come to fruition. It hasn't been successful. And so as much as I personally like Thomas Brown and, you know, I've made the connections and comparisons to a Mike Tomlin 2.0 and all of those things, it has been a complete dud. And so we have to move forward. And with that being the case, a lot of people in the locker room, a lot of players, Cole Kmet specifically, we'll talk about, have sounded off on what they think should be really important. What should be the focus on this next head coaching search? And this is exactly what he had to say. When asked what qualities can stabilize and energize this frustrated locker room, he says, "We need a culture shift for sure. I know a lot of people get caught up in wanting this hot name or that hot name, but I would hope that management upstairs would just be looking for the best possible head coach. It's about command over the locker room. It's setting a line, then finding the guys who will hold that line, and then depending on those guys who are holding the line to establish an environment where everybody else falls in line." I think those last statements, that last sentence is the most important thing, especially for me. When you hear that from the tight end, a lot of things come to mind. The failure of the fact that at the very beginning of the season, you had a head coach in Matt Eberflus that let things go to the wayside. You had a lot of people who mentioned that even Shane Waldron was kind of too much of a nice guy. Keenan Allen, you know, uttered those words when asked just directly after Shane Waldron had been fired. You know, what did you think of, you know, his time and his tenure here? He says, too much of a nice guy. Letting things kind of just fall by the wayside, thinking that, you know, oh, that'll be okay, kind of not ruffling any feathers. That's not what this organization needs. That's not what certain players need. You need somebody that's going to come in and be disciplined and also allow others in the locker room on this team to be disciplined as well, hold each other accountable. That way, when you hear Cole Kmet say, you know what, at the end of the day, it's been frustrating and I have to just focus on myself because it seems that not every player on this team is prepared and cares about the preparation from week to week when you're getting ready for games. Everybody's not on the same page when it comes to their effort. Everybody's not on the same page when it comes to the tenacity that you need, the attention to detail, the focus, the desire to actually win, the pride that is involved in a game like this. It's not on the same page. And so when you hear those type of damning things, there clearly needs to be a change. And I love the fact that he says, hey, it's not about having the new hot name, the new toy. Now, of course, you all know that I'm all on board for Ben Johnson. That is technically, quote unquote, the shiny new toy when it comes to the head coaching names out there. You know, you have a Joe Brady as well. You have a lot of names out there that are the new up and coming names, right? But then you also have some veteran names, some experienced names, some names that are technically part of the lure of football, like a Pete Carroll, like a Mike Vrabel. There's also the name of Mike McCarthy that has been brought up lately. If he doesn't retain himself in Dallas, he would probably be a name here to be interviewed in Chicago. Cliff Kingsbury as well, who's had head coaching experience. There's so many different names, and yet what is the main focus is the most important thing. It's about being disciplined. It's about coming in to this organization and completely changing it over on its head from top to bottom. And I've said this so many times is that it really isn't just necessarily about whether or not they have the best offensive game plan for Caleb or if it's the best defensive game plan, whether it be a Brian Flores. At the same time, I would like someone who is going to groom this quarterback, Caleb Williams in particular, to be the very best version of himself. However, as a head coach, we know and the game expects you to have more impact than just being a head coach for the quarterback. It's the role, the responsibility over the entire team. You have to make sure that you're holding every single part of this team, every single area and position of this team accountable. That's on defense as well. And so if we were to bring someone like a Ben Johnson in the building, obviously he's not just going to be focusing on developing Caleb. He's going to be focusing on developing the attitude and the culture shift that needs to be adjusted here on the entire team. And of course, you know, when you hear things like that from a Cole Kmet who has been so used to losing and is now, I believe it mentioned in the article, his 55th defeat in 5 seasons. You're so used to losing, you've averaged over 11 losses in your last 5 seasons as a tight end. No one wants to get used to that. No one wants to get used to losing. And so when you hear your top players, your veterans in the locker room speak in a manner in which this has to change. You can't be so used to losing and you can't be okay with just mediocrity. And I think that it's now time for that culture to shift, for there to be a new and infused and improved culture. And I think that Cole Kmet is definitely saying the right things outside of some others as well. This article also mentioned the fact that Kevin Byard also said the same things. You see, he said that when it comes to a head coach, he needs to almost be the CEO of the organization, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Of course, you have the McCaskies, the owners of the organization. You have the president and Kevin Warren. You have the GM and Ryan Poles. But essentially, the head coach needs to kind of be that CEO because it technically starts with him with the players. He has to be the person that comes in and creates an attitude that is to be, in a sense, feared. Because, or I should say respected or feared, whichever way you want to look at it, he has to have a certain respect level from these players and even from the front office, from the leaders up top that will say, you know what, this is the guy that's going to move us forward. We had a conversation recently with one of the our guys on our panel in the Windy City Breeze, Ringo. Shout out to him, Giants fan, but also a Bears fan as well. And he mentioned that would you trade a 12-5 season, kind of like how the Dallas Cowboys are, where every season they're very good winning record in the regular season, and yet they never win in the postseason. Would you trade that for what the Bears are going through right now, where say you're 12-5 every single season, and yet you don't make it to the Super Bowl, you don't win a championship? Now, my opinion is I would just like to win. If you're used to winning in the regular season, you give me that all day. I'm a happy camper. Obviously, at a certain point, you're going to get tired of saying, okay, we're coming up short. We're coming up short. We're not getting the ring. We're not getting to the actually end goal of why everybody's playing. That's the trophy. That's the Super Bowl, right? The Lombardi. However, if you told me that every single season we'd make it to the playoffs, that's better than anything I've ever experienced in my tenure as a Bears fan. I've not experienced winning consistently. So I would love to start at least there. And that's exactly where I feel like this team needs to go, is at least start with winning. Yes, Ryan Poles says all the right things about, wanting to take back the North and never give it back, being a powerhouse and beating Green Bay and saying all of these great things, all of this GM speak. But what results have happened yet? There's been no good results from that. There's nothing that has been yielded from that fruit in a sense. We need someone who is going to come into the building and actually shift the culture to the point where we're winning year in and year out. And I think the players, they feel that they're sounding off, they're saying that, and you love to see it because I feel that also kind of commits to the culture when you have your top players speaking out and saying that there needs to be better discipline, when it comes to the level on the players here. There needs to be more accountability when it comes to the coaching. There needs to be a shift in attitude, a shift in, hey, not letting things go by the wayside at the beginning of the season. This clearly was a lost season. We expected playoffs, and we didn't come anywhere near that. We expected a team that was going to compete in the most challenging division in football. We didn't come anywhere near that. Got off to a good start, but was that more so because of the weak schedule, or was it because we were actually competitive? I think that it was because of a weaker schedule. We showed ourselves to not be a ready football team on so many different levels when it came to leadership. And so that's what needs to change. And you love to see your top players speak on it. I think going into this offseason, it is going to be pivotal, obviously, who we pick as a head coach. You have some top names out there in a Mike Vrabel, in a Pete Carroll, in a Ben Johnson, obviously, Mike McCarthy. Those names have been around, have been talked up a lot lately. I would love to know what you all think would be your top candidate and for what reason. Whether it's an offensive-minded person or a defensive-minded person, why do you think that specific person should be the head coach of the Bears? And what sort of thing is most important to you when it comes to the head coaching search? Kind of like with what Cole Kmet said, as far as being a disciplined person that can come in here and really change things around as far as the culture. I want to be down there with you all, as always, in the comment section to see what you guys think. And as always, if you like this video, show some class. Comment, like, subscribe, share this video with others. I see you guys on the next Bears Breeze.